the auspicious occasion of Ramanavami, I thought we should spend a few moments trying to draw the significance of the great text, Ramayana, written by the great sage Valmiki. Now, in fact, the challenge the great sage Valmiki had, perhaps no other sage would have had, because every master, for example, you could take Valmiki or the great Vyasa, they chose to convey a message to mankind through a story. There was a backdrop. There is the story, and then there is the philosophy. And the two classic characters of the both great epics is Lord Krishna and Lord Rama. And the influence, the great works, and these two great personalities have had on our lives, in fact, is so powerful that we can't conceive today. Every other bhajan or kirtana you sing literally has these two great personalities, the divine personalities in the form of Lord Rama or Lord Krishna. But in as such as Lord Krishna, Lord Rama's character is very difficult to understand. It is much easier to follow the life of Lord Krishna, but difficult to make any sense or philosophical sense of what the character of Lord Rama portrayed. Now, why is because what the great sage Valmiki attempted to do, and he did it too good that he's not understood. And the character of Rama indeed appears as with a certain blemish. There are many aspects in Lord Rama's life. There are many questions asked. There seems to be a contradiction. There seems to be imperfection written. That the reason is why is because of this. Now, Lord Rama is idealized, is symbolized as a man of perfection. A man of perfection in every walk of life, in all the roles one played. So he was picturized as someone who was a perfect human being and who epitomized perfection in every role he played. Now, what were the roles he played? Just take a few roles. No, it's not exhaustive, just a peep into the great text. He was portrayed as a perfect son, wasn't he? He was also portrayed as an ideal king. He was also portrayed as a true husband. He was also portrayed as a real friend. He was also portrayed as a very devoted brother. And so on and so forth, other roles he played. So when you try to bring in perfection in each role, there were conflicts with other roles. And that brought about, yes, you can say Setuji, a devoted student as well. So as I said, I'm just trying to give you a brief into his life. Now let me highlight a few aspects. Now, before I get into highlighting a few aspects in this context, I'll expand on other few important aspects of Ramayana. Now, before I get into it, now imagine a painter trying to paint a portrait of a beautiful lady. Now you want to paint the most beautiful picture of a lady. As they say, it's the face, the features of the face is that people are drawn to the beauty. It's the beauty of the person. Now, if he tries to paint a perfect nose, a perfect ears, a perfect lips, perfect eyebrows, perfect hair, perfect physique, perfect height, perfect weight, you put all those perfection aspects into that one figure, that person will look an ugly caricature. So there's nothing called as a perfect nose or a perfect ear or a perfect this and a perfect that. And that's what Valmiki tried to do. Therefore, at times you find Lord Rama's character is jarring. There is a blemish. There seems to be an imperfection. But if you want to emulate Rama, take each aspect of it and try to apply it. You would not go wrong. I don't know whether I'm making sense to you all, but this is just an interesting observation. Now, the first and foremost aspect, perhaps, it contradicted the contradiction of a son vis-a-vis a king. The rest all you might have heard here and there, but just wanted to bring in this aspect. The contradiction between a son and a king. As you know, the father, due to some, what was that? Some agreement he had, his wife decided Bharata should be appointed as a king and Rama should be sent to the jungle. And Dasharatha, his father, was so attached to Rama and he did not know how to tell this news to him that the boy, his son, his dear son, going to be coronated the king tomorrow, has to go to the jungle in exile for X number of years. How he could say that? He had no way he could say that, but yet he had to convey that. And when he said that, Rama was so devoted to his father, he just did what his father said, wasn't it? And he knew if he had followed and went to the jungle, his father could not stand the sorrow of his exile. And no sooner thereafter, he got the news that his father was no more. And yet, here is a man who was to be the king coronated, who had a larger picture of running a kingdom. And yet, he upheld a mere impulse of his father. So there's a contradiction between a son and a king. Which is greater, a mere impulse or an emotion by one person or a nation? Rajima, which is superior here? Even practical sense, logical sense.
The nation, Guruji.
Nation. If one man disagree, doesn't matter. The nation is important. And it was a huge festivity, the king to be coronated. Imagine he walks away into the jungle. So here is one contradiction. So the context here is Rama was being portrayed as an ideal son, not as an ideal king. There'll be many such episodes where you will be able to find a blemish. Now, second one such instance is after he got back Sita, just by hearing a herd say of a fisherman, what did he do? Some prattle. There was doubt on the purity of Sita. What did he do? I'm a little poor at stories. Huh? Vasantama, what did he do?
He sent her away to exile. To another stage under the.
Was it that, or was he, or was she told to walk through fire?
Yes. Before that,
Yes,
she was asked.
she was in exile as well. So there was this context of she had to walk through fire. And this was doubted. How can Rama not understand his own wife? But there, he was not approaching it from a husband, but he was approaching from an ideal kingship. Because tomorrow, when she is coronated along with him, the era, those days where people's opinion mattered, everybody's opinion was respected. So there's a contradiction. There's another contradiction of what Lord Rama hid behind a tree and shot Vali, and the law. So he was not an ideal warrior because he broke the law of warfare. But what did he upheld, Badriji? You know the context?
He upheld the law of karma as I see it, because Vali behaved immorally with Sugriva's wife and with Sugriva. And the way I see it is that it's like, in in the Mahabharata, there are several cases where Krishna.
I would like you to stick to Ramayana very soon. Thereafter, we always talk of Krishna. We don't talk of Rama.
No, what I'm saying is that there are many instances where somebody who's committed a sin is treated with a like for like kind of thing. This is the one instance in the Ramayana which follows that, where Vali's behavior with people close to him, like his brother's wife and all that, wasn't moral. So
yes.
So he had to be killed. He had to be killed, and there was no way Sugriva by himself could have vanquished Vali. Vali was superior to Sugriva physically. So in order to ensure that dharma prevailed there, okay, he committed this.
Yes. No, that you're very right. My question is, what does it conflict with?
Yeah, the role of an ideal warrior who fights nobly without resorting to deceit versus upholding dharma.
No. The conflict of roles here. The conflict of role is conflicted.
Friend versus
he gave his word to Sugriva that he will protect him.
Right. Friend versus warrior.
So a friend versus warrior, isn't it? So when you look from a perspective of warrior, Rama was fundamentally wrong because he broke the law of warfare.
Right.
But he was 100% right because he upheld the principle of the word he gave to Sugriva. As a true friend, he protected him, isn't it?
Right.
And also there's also the philosophical, because Vali had done great tapas. And the tapas he did, and he had the boon that he could get half the power of any opponent he faced. And Vali, as you rightly said, symbolizes the power of lust.
Ahankaram also.
Ahankar, but he symbolizes, what exactly does he symbolize?
Yeah, you said it, lust also. Yeah.
Sensual pleasures.
Right.
So he symbolizes sensual pleasure. So what is the message there? When you want to conquer your desire for any weakness, you can't conquer it if you are in face to face with any sense object. Sense object actually wins over you before you have an attempt to conquer yourself. So the only way you conquer a sense object is you can't conquer it by facing it. The moment you face it, half your power is gone. The only way you conquer it is by
not facing.
abstinence.
Yeah.
Abstinence,
Yeah.
by being away from it. Withdrawal. So you've got to withdraw, get away from it, gain the strength, and then face it. Then you're okay. So since Vali symbolized that, Rama hid behind a tree and shot him. So these are a few. Does any one of you, can anyone recall any other instance where you find there's a contradiction? There's a seeming blemish to Rama's character?
Namaskar, Guruji.
Yes, Reddy Garu. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I am not finding any contradiction, but one message which I strongly take into consideration all the time, like the pain and pleasure or continuous process, like a day before, where he is supposed to be the king, being announced as a king of a kingdom. And within a short period of an overnight or so, as the story goes through, the next day morning, he's been asked to go to the forest. So
Yes.
within a few hours of a time, how the fortunes are being changed, how is it ability or the, I can say the agility in terms of the leadership management, where we talk about the people should take all strides, whatever it comes, maybe as it, what it comes to me. Is one more learning lesson. It always sometimes inspires, okay, when Rama gone through that pain, so why not we can able to? Is the one learning lesson I always take on myself.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. These great men are portrayed, or they live that kind of standard, where they were in so much inner balance with themselves, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Really right. Perfect. Yes. Gayatri Ma.
Yeah. Guruji, about Ahalya, there is also a talk that Rama had to place his feet on Ahalya's head to get liberated. So that also keeps, like why his leg on her feet, like in a head.
So you should be giving us answers, not putting in a spot of bother now.
No, I wanted to know, like, that's also something like which he keeps talking, like Rama had to place his feet on Ahalya's head to get liberated. So why his feet were put on Ahalya's head? Because always we pursue that keeping a leg on somebody's head is something not proper.
In one of the Puranas also, isn't it? What is that? I'm very bad at all this. Hariji, 1 minute. There's something Bali, correct?
Mahabali.
What is that Mahabali?
That Vamana comes. Mahabali is a very arrogant. It's a very nice and high bhakti fellow, but he was very arrogant. He always told that whatever anybody asked, he will give. So Narayana wanted to teach him a lesson. So he comes in the form of a dwarf, Vamana.
Vamana.
And he comes and, Vamana. And he asked, Mahabali asked, okay, what do you want? He said, I don't want anything. I need only 3 feet. He said, why don't you ask more than that? 3 feet is nothing. He said, that is enough. The moment he said, then he grows big. The first feet will be the entire heaven, then the hell. Then he said, where can I keep my third feet? Then Mahabali shows his head.
Correct.
So he pushes him down.
So I don't know whether there is any philosophical parallel here. So
No.
obviously thereafter, was he not liberated?
Yeah, and he gives, he was given one boon. Every year once he can come and see his praja. That is what they celebrate as Onam. The Keralites, no?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody has an answer for Gayatri Ma? Radhanath raised his hand and then quickly put his hand down.
No, the reason is I don't have any answer to Gayatri Ma. I thought I only recollected the biggest contradiction I think in Rama's this thing was when he sends his wife back after coronation because some dhobis were talking and he just got rid of his whole family. And as a youngster, when I was reading Ramayana, I was looking for a happily ever after. And this man sends him back, and I could never forgive him for that. Even now, I can't reconcile. I would have rather given up the kingdom and gone with my wife to the forest rather than send my young wife after fighting so much to alone, and then you rule your kingdom. How can you rule peacefully?
Sir, he was such a devoted husband. He fought and conquered Ravana and brought back Sita. Not that he doubted. On one hand, you say he doubted her. On the other side, he fought such a long battle to bring her back. So this is what I'm saying. Throughout, there are contradictions. Throughout, if you start expanding, you got to look at it only from that single lens. Then you know what he upheld the standpoint from a kingship, as a king.
Chakravarti, an ideal Chakravarti.
So he's idealized in every role one place,
And like you said, sometimes conflicts with another role.
Yeah. No. Sorry? Yes, Hariji?
No, Guruji, you said on the one hand he fought for her, on the other hand he made her go through Agni Pariksha and all that kind of thing. But on the other hand, another way of looking at it is, on the other hand, she was pregnant and he sent her away.
Exactly.
So the very start of the whole thing. I mean, I personally see that Rama is finally portrayed as a good person, but finally a normal person with fallibilities, right? And the fallibilities serve to highlight what are the kind of conflicts that we will face in daily life. And it is not necessary that we have to take exactly the same choices that he makes, but it's just highlighting those conflicts. If you really look at it, in innumerable situations, he is unable to play two roles simultaneously. Whereas all of us are required to play multiple roles simultaneously in our daily life. You have to be a son and a father. You have to be a son and a husband. There are so many conflicts.
Now we are bringing down Rama to a lesser mortal state than we are. Let's not do that, please.
He's a great mortal, but he is just a mortal.
He is portrayed as a man of realization. None other than Lord Krishna. They are talked at that pedestal, an enlightened soul. So we can't hold him in light note. That's what I'm saying. The challenge is the eye we take to look and examine his personality. We got to take it from a very specific It is intentionally portrayed. This is what I said. Valmiki had a challenge which no other sage had a challenge, because what he tried to communicate, what he tried to convey was so unique, which we don't have the difficulty trying to understand Lord Krishna or any other character. So that is why my whole examination on talking of this, the character of Lord Rama, is because we don't understand his character. Because we are mixing roles. As you said, you could be you will have to play a role of a father, of a husband, of a son, a son-in-law, a neighbor, so on and so forth. And you are playing. I can play at my level. What's the problem with Rama? See, we can't talk that. We can't take that perspective.
So, Guruji, are you saying that therefore such people cannot be evaluated or judged by mere mortals? Because we don't have the ability to, or the reference point to judge.
We don't. Therefore, that is where the attempt is. How should we understand the character of Lord Rama? How should Lord Rama be understood? In fact, just yesterday or the day before, I was having a conversation with Rajima. She was also bringing up this, and she said, Hanumanji had no blemish, and Rama's character had such shortcomings in his personality. To which I commented, didn't I, Ma? Said, Rama is portrayed as an enlightened soul. What are we talking? We can't hold it in any other lighter vein. We need to apply ourselves to understand why is he portrayed like that. So what Valmiki did is, what is this? So take only as a son, examine, you will find he was a perfect son. As a warrior, he was a perfect warrior. As a husband, none of us would have gone to the length to bring back Sita. None of us. Yeah, go to hell. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be using all that words in this classroom. Why should I go through after that? All again is only going to be nagging and nagging. Let her be comfortable where she is. Her karma, let her suffer. I will move on with my life. No, he didn't, but he endured so much to bring her back. So he was an ideal husband, such a devoted brother, and so on. So take it only from that specific window, and then don't mix up. You mix up all this confusion. And sorry, Gayatri Ma, I don't have an answer. If anybody has an answer, I do not know in what way it contradicted or conflicts with any other role. But since you're only asking why Lord Rama had to put his feet on Ahalya. I don't know. Maybe that's the only way, They say, please bless us by putting your feet, they say, no? Please enter the house and bless us. But put your feet, that is good enough. Don't we say so in our language? Huh? We don't say, why don't you put your hand and walk into the house and bless us? How can you enter the house with your feet and then bless? I don't know. I'm just thinking wild here. I hope that statement makes sense.
Yeah, I just want a deeper philosophical meaning of it, if it is anything there. Otherwise, I really don't question such acts of a great personality. We just
no. We try to question it to understand. Ramji has something to say.
No, I was
twist.
Namaste, Guruji. I was saying that I don't think he had deliberately put his foot on Ahalya's head.
No, it's not deliberate, but even why such a thing?
No, he touched the rock with his foot and the rock turned into Ahalya, right? Okay.
Yes.
So he didn't put his foot on Ahalya's head, as far as my reading of the situation goes.
Gayatri Ma, wrong facts you're giving me. Thank you, Ramji. All these people are putting me in a spot of bother, correct? So, all right. See, so there's so much that you can expand on, but Rama symbolizes the Atman, and Sita symbolizes the individual ego, the self. So as Srinivasji was saying, Sita, when she was in union with Rama, she was reveling in bliss, in happiness, because all her thought and attention was on Rama. And even if it meant she had to spend, she being a princess, she never looked back. She took the journey into the jungle, into the forest, along with Rama, and she was ever blissful. So the message there is, as long our thoughts are on the higher, doesn't matter whether you are in the most assured situation of comforts and conveniences, or you are going through challenges, going through literal starvation, you're deprived of everything. As long as you have that thought on the higher, you will have that great comfort within. You will find yourself peaceful and happy. That is portrayed, the fact that Sita was happy. But the whole twist was when Sita saw the golden deer. And that's the state we are in. What's the state we are in? What state are we in? Gayatri Ma. Yeah. Many golden deers we are seeing. We are all the time only seeing golden deers. So our approach to life is we are all the time distracted by the worldly attractions and temptations. We are drawn outward. We are living a life of extrovertedness. So the moment Sita saw the golden deer symbolizes, what does golden deer symbolize? Jayashrima, any idea what does the golden deer symbolize?
Desire, more desire in the life.
No. Wanting a golden deer is your desire. But what does the golden deer symbolize? Okay, no problem. Ushama?
Namaste, Guruji. Does its extrovertedness or the worldly pleasures or desires?
Multiple choice, huh?
They're all one, Guruji.
Oh, one. So almost I thought you're giving me multiple choice to choose from.
They're different names for the same kind of.
So the golden deer is the quality or attribute of worldly pleasures, which is golden conveys it is attractive.
Yeah. Okay.
Any sensual pleasure is all about the appeal factor, isn't it? So the world is designed for your fall, for our fall, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Any sense object only draws you to it to fall for it. So the golden means it is very tantalizing, it's tempting,
yeah.
It is attractive, it's golden, it glitters, it draws our attention. A deer symbolizes you can't hold on to the joys or the pleasures you derive from it.
Yes.
It is fleeting. Because you can't hold a deer, you can't catch a hold of a deer. It is fleeting, it's passing. So the golden deer conveys the joy or pleasure one derives from any extroverted life or external pursuits. Anything external is fleeting, it's temporary, it is passing. Anything. Tell me anything which lasts externally. It doesn't last.
Nothing, Guruji.
It will not last. It's a matter of, it's temporal. So the moment which is symbolized again by when you fall a prey to the senses, which is what, sorry, the golden deer symbolizes falling a prey to the Ravana, the 10-headed monster. You have fallen a prey to your 10 senses. And then we have the story of Rama killing Vali and appointing Sugriva. What does that symbolize? No, not in the context of the conflict between Vali and Sugriva. Rama killing Vali and appointing Sugriva, or getting Sugriva in his favor to help for the reunion of Sita. See, Sugriva was a man of self-control, was a man of great integrity, was a man who was established in right values. You want Sita, I said, is the art, the jiva, the individual. Rama is the atman, the self. So the Rama and Sita getting together back is the reunion of the individual to the self. Now, if the individual has to get back to the self, you have to use, what are the forces you have to use? What are the forces that you need to deal with or reckon with? I hope the question is clear. Huh? You follow the question? There was this Rama and Sita. The reunion of Sita to Rama is the union of the individual to regain the self, isn't it? Why the energy? Individual getting back to the self. Now, in order for when would we achieve that objective of getting back to the self? So, and what are the forces that you need to reckon with, to deal with, in order to get to the self? The forces that we need to deal with are our own thoughts and desires, isn't it? And a monkey represents our thought. Each monkey is a thought. And the only forces Rama could have banked on in the jungle to get to Sita to fight Ravana was the monkey forces. The monkey forces symbolizes each thoughts and desires in our mind. So you need to have control over your thoughts. You let your thoughts run wild, lustfully behind the world. You can't use them. You can't control them. You can't garner those lustful thoughts and seek the self. They don't help you. So if you want to use your thought forces to gain and channelize them to take you to the higher, you must first get hold of them. And getting hold of the thought forces is taking away Vali and planting Sugriva. So symbolically, you've controlled every thought force of yours. Then you need to redirect it. And then comes the most superior thought of all thoughts is, what is the most superior thought of all thoughts, Ajima?
Getting to the self, the Atman.
Yes. And what does that symbolize? What is that symbolized by?
Getting established in Rama.
What did I say just now? I'm just trying to get your thoughts connected. What did I say just now, Ma?
But what does it symbolize?
No. He had to get all the thought forces under control so that it can be directed to gain the self, isn't it?
Correct, correct.
So he got all the monkey forces in his favor so that he can direct it to the higher.
Yes.
Isn't it? And of the thought forces, there's one thought which takes you back to the self. There are many thoughts in us. I have control over my thoughts. But of the thoughts, there's one thought which is so powerful, which only gets me to the self, which is the desire for realization.
Yes, Guruji.
So what is the desire for realization symbolized as?
Sugriva.
Hanumanji. Hanumanji symbolizes that foremost thought of getting Sita to Rama. He played that pivotal role of identifying where Sita was and bringing that connection between Sita and Rama. Everybody went everywhere, but it's Hanumanji who went and who identified Sita, isn't it? So it is that foremost thought that really paved the way, the bridge, the gap. And then all the thought forces followed. All the monkey forces got together, built that bridge to separate. It separated to get to the self. And then the 10-headed monster Ravana was killed, and there was a reunion. So Hanumanji is worshipped because he was a man who conquered his own nature. And what's the nature of a thought? The nature of a thought is asthira and chanchala. It is never at a place. Even if it is at a place, it's very restless, it's fidgety. So Hanumanji, the moment he saw Rama, his thoughts got transfixed on him. He lost his nature. He did not lose his nature, he lost his nature because what was his nature? Reddy Garu, what is the nature of a monkey?
Loyalty.
No. What's the nature of a monkey, sir?
Yeah, it's always flickering minded.
Correct. So the moment he saw Rama,
wavering mind.
He lost his nature. Means what?
He's controlled.
His mind lost its nature of being fickle. His mind got transfixed on Rama. Isn't it?
Yeah.
The moment Hanumanji saw Rama, his mind got fixed on it. Till then it was rambling, it was fickle. It got transfixed. Now there's a particular reference to a section. And again, there is a reference to many verses, hundreds and thousands of verses later when he actually sees Sita in Ashokavanam. When he sees Sita, he utters a word. It's in Tamil, it is said. And he says, Hanumanji says, Yen kulattai enaka tandal, he says. I have regained back in kulattai, means I've got back my lost nature. And what was his nature? Again, I ask you, Harishji, what was the nature?
Asthir and Chanchal.
Asthir and Chanchal. So when he saw Sita for the first time, because he only heard of the greatness of the mother Sita, and when they saw Sita for the first time, in that Vanam, she was only meditating on Rama. And when he saw her, the divine mother, the first thing he said, I got back my lost nature. And what is that nature? What does he mean by that? Yen kulatte enaka tandal. What does it mean by that?
I'm no longer only focused on Rama. You have diverted me from that focus.
Now I have one more thought to think of. Now Rama and Sita also. That was the magnetic personality what Sita was. She was so charmed by that. Outstanding. So there's so many intricate aspects you can go into and read, you know. The symbolism of Ashoka Vanam, I've already explained that before. Ashoka is a state of no sorrow. She was in a state of no sorrow because she was thinking of the higher self, Rama. Okay. Hariji, anything? You're good?
Guruji, for
Yes, sir.
me in Ramayana, more than anybody, my hero is Valmiki.
Your hero
Sage
is?
Valmiki. Sage Valmiki.
Valmiki, right, okay.
Yes, he was born as a dacoit, and he could convert himself as a self-realized soul, the Jivan Mukta, giving me also a hope that I have a chance.
It only depends on how big a thief you are. If you're slightly
but he was
bigger,
one of the biggest.
Then you have a very good chance. You have a very good chance. If you are slightly bigger than him, then I have a question mark doubt, sir.
He gives a hope for everybody.
Don't what do you call that word? Stuttering, huh? Okay. Is that the right word, Rajima? What is called smattering? What do you call that? If somebody has
buttering.
Buttering. Butter panamata. I will not butter, and that too I'll not butter you. I know.
Stammering.
Huh?
Stammering.
Stammering or stuttering?
Stuttering.
Stammering.
Stammering. So you were stammering to answer. Then I said that will be a doubt. You must be very clear, sir.
Yeah.
That
for me, he is
correct. Yeah.
He gives a hope to everybody that just because he was born as a dacoit, he need not die as a dacoit.
Correct. So you rightly bring us to the verse which we last, and the concept we studied was Purushartha, how the concept of free will is that which helps us to sail us through the vasanas, isn't it? So what we must understand is, on one side we have the mind, which is an ever challenge. Entire spirituality boils down to handling the mind, whether be it your thoughts, your emotions, your impulses, your attachments, your desires. All of these are the realm of the mind. Entire spirituality boils down to handling the different aspects of the mind. The different aspects of the mind just mentioned are your thoughts, your emotions, your impulses, your desires, your attachments. All these are the realm of the mind. So on one side, you have this power of the mind, and to combat it, what do we have on the other side? Based on last week's discussion, if you could say it so that we can almost sum it up. Vaidyanathanji, on one side, you have the power of the mind. On the other side, what do you have?
The intellect.
One is the intellect. What else?
Then you have the Purushartha, and then combining the two together, we make the right decision to move.
So There is the intellect, there is the purushartha. What else?
Of course, the vasanas are the basic which brings the thoughts into it.
No, in effect, we are conquering the vasanas itself here, isn't it?
Right.
But to combat the vasana or the mind, we have the intellect, we have the free will.
Free will.
What else?
Exercise of free will.
So free will is it's like you are free to move within the country, isn't it?
Yes.
You don't need it is there. You don't need to be told about it. It's there. Until there's some curfew imposed, then you know, oh, I can't do this. That's when you know the freedom you had with you all the time. Oh, I can't go out after 8 o'clock. Oh. But till then you knew it is understood, isn't it? The free will is there. It's always there. So intellect, free will, then you have the conscience, you're right, and then the wisdom. These are the 4 aspects you need to tap. You need to engage to combat the mind, its thoughts, its emotions, its impulses, its desires and attachments. Now, what do you learn from this, sir? It's 1:4, sir.
So never-ending battle, sir. So bringing all these reins into control.
But when you say 1:4, what do you gather?
Sorry, Guruji, I could not get that answer.
Okay, no problem. Yes, Seduji, if it's 1:4, what do you gather from that?
This 1 is the mind, 4 are this conscience, intellect, wisdom, and purushartha.
Correct. So it's as it were. No, don't take it literally, but as it were, it's 1 against the 4. So what are we, when you say 1:4, the fight is between 1 and 4 factors.
We have.
What do you gather?
1 is powerful, but we have 4 avenues, 4 forces to combat. We have to use all the 4.
We have to use all the 4, but what it conveys, as you also said, is it conveys the power of that one thought. Never ever underestimate the power of your mind. Isn't it? That one entity is so powerful that it is presenting itself as such a challenge to deal with.
It can be positive, it can be negative.
When does it become positive? A controlled mind is a blessing. An uncontrolled mind is a curse. It's like a river flowing, isn't it? If a river is kept in the banks, it's a blessing. The moment the river breaks the banks, it's a curse. Currently, we are not able to control our mind. Therefore, the mind is a challenge. We are not able to control our thoughts and emotions, our impulses, our desires, our attachments. So it's 1:4. Watch out. The problem is we underestimate the power of the mind. Isn't it? The sankalpa is very powerful. Last point I wanted to mention in Ramayana is the assurance which Sita got. See, many of us go through that phase. Maybe can we have the audience back, and again we can put back the verse. I hope that's not difficult. So The phase of a spiritual seeker is where Sita was in a no man's land. She did not know whether she is going to get any help. She did not know she would ever get back to Rama, which is the union with the self. So we are all in no man's land. We do not know whether we're doing the right thing. But if you hold on to the faith in the practices that you are doing, considering you're doing the right thing and have faith in it, you will get the ring of assurance which Hanumanji brought of Lord Rama and showed to Sitama that I am indeed messenger of Rama. I'm not Ravana in another disguise trying to fool you. And the moment Sita saw the ring, she got the assurance that yes, I am in the right path. So all of us will experience that eureka moment, that moment where you get that symbolic ring in your life, where you get the assurance that this is the path, this is the journey, go on, you will get to the self. I hope you all have got it. But if you have not got that, have faith in the journey, have faith in the knowledge, have faith in your guru, have faith in what you're holding on to, and hold on to it. There will be that symbolic ring with Hanumanji comes and gives assurance. It is exactly the same. Maybe we may not be able to get to the verse. I allow to draw the parallel. The same thing, analogy is brought about by Plato. Plato brings about the same concept in the famous Plato's metaphor. How many of you have heard this before? How many of you have heard the Plato's metaphor? Okay. Now, it's a beautiful analogy. See, Plato talks of a generation lost deep in the caves of a mountain, deep recesses of the mountain. It talks of a generation that lived there. Don't ask me how, but they lived there. It's a metaphor. There's a trying to draw, we'll draw an analogy thereafter. Now, one person amongst the generation started questioning the very life generations have lived there. And he questioned them and said, this is not what life is, man. This is not what life is all meant for. They used to light a fire. They used to dance, live around the fire. And the only source of entertainment was looking at the shadows that played on the walls of the cave. They ate, they slept, and life went on. Until one person started questioning, and there should be something beyond it. Let's go and explore. Everybody poo-pooed it. They said, this fellow, is something wrong with this fellow. They just neglected him. The more vehement he was, the more certain they felt that this fellow was mad, cuckoo. So they actually put him at a distance. And one fine moment, when everybody were resting, he realized that nobody would be in his journey. And he started a journey into the unknown. He plunged into the darkness. He started walking away from the generation. A few yards, he had the light of the campfire, the fire, but thereafter a few turnings, he was in darkness. He was in no man's land. He did not know of what lied ahead of him, but he just kept marching. He stumbled, he hurt himself, he pulled himself up, but kept marching, kept marching, kept marching in the darkness. And suddenly he sees something dazzling. something brilliant. Till then, he had no pointer to go towards. And suddenly he saw something so like a diamond. You know, what was it, Vasantama? Literally, it was a diamond. What was that?
It's the lighthouse.
Sun.
Huh? No. What was it? What could it be? Yes, Hariji?
It was the sun, isn't it?
It was the mouth of the cave. He's exploring the cave to look for something beyond the life of that which the generation knew. And he's trying to explore what lied beyond it. He kept searching in darkness, not knowing where he was going. But he never let go his faith of that thought he had that there's something beyond life. It's not just all eating and mating and sleeping, man. Life is not all this. There has to be more to it. And he explored and plunged into the unknown. And then came the mouth of the cave, which was actually the sun. And it was too bright and dazzling. So he had a point of direction. He marched towards that. And for the first time in his life, he actually came out and he saw the sun, the moon, the stars, the flora, the fauna. He saw the fruits, he saw the birds, the beasts. He took a fresh breath. He enjoyed, he relished. He jumped in joy and ecstasy, symbolizing realization. He's attained moksha. He's experienced that. A life totally contrasts to that life of the generation. And after that, you know what he did? Yes, Hariji, you think what he did? Don't look at the. Did you open up the Plato's metaphor somewhere? What did he do? Any guess? Badriji.
This is a pure guess, but I think he closed the mouth of the cave, symbolizing that he's completely closed that path.
Symbolizing that?
He's put that past behind him, and now he is only in the present that he has newly experienced.
No, sir, you're missing the point. Let's ask Ramji.
I don't know what he did, but I would have gone back and called everybody out.
In fact, he did exactly that. He went back into the cave. Sir, there was no path that he had followed. He just was broaching in the darkness. So he went back into the cave after a few corners of the light of the sun. Again, he was in darkness. He kept again hitting nooks and corners, he pulled himself up with the only intention of finding the generation again. And he goes back to the generation and he is so ecstatic, he can't contain his joy. And he's telling them, I told you guys there's something there. I've experienced it. They thought this mad fellow has come back again into their lives. He's coming in again, disturbing us. He never left hope. He kept telling them of what experience he had, hoping that somebody would understand what he's saying. After a few days, one fellow walks up to him and says, I'm with you. Now, these two people left the generation, took the same journey what the first man did. Again, they went through that same challenge, came to that point where they experienced, the second guy also experienced and found true what the first man said. Both of them were jumping in ecstasy and joy. And then the first fellow knocks at the second fellow and say, now it's your turn to go and bring one person out. And he pushes back him into the cave. And this principle is known as the Guru Shishya Parampara. The Guru's job is to convey the enlightenment of the self to one person. If he can bring that realization of the self to one person, his job is done. He has passed on the baton. That flame will carry on. And it is this tradition of the Guru Shishya Parampara. We still have this tradition. We have this knowledge with us. Now I fell back, I've referred to this Plato's metaphor, the point where he was in no man's land and yet he marched on. That is exactly the faith Sita held on to, the belief that she is certain, and yet she had to hold on to the faith that some help will come. That's exactly the faith you got to have, we all got to have, until either it is the ring of Lord Rama brought by Hanumanji, or it is the opening of the cave, which was dazzled like a diamond, which was a point which gave him a direction. I tell you, every seeker goes through this. Every seeker gets that assurance. And thereafter, it is your Purushartha that will take you to the goal. But there will be a zone, a realm, a time where you're uncertain. Fall back on your faith. Okay. And the most fascinating thing is he pushes the second fellow back and says, it's your turn to go and convince another person of what it is. I've done my job. My dharma is finished. So it is that concern these great masters have for us. And we don't understand the language. We're just content by entertaining ourselves with the shadows. We don't want to explore the unknown. So there's greater significance in the finer facets. So get hold of, I'm sure it is there somewhere. If you can Google it and find out the Plato's metaphor, the famous Plato's metaphor, there could be finer points. And if there's something that we all need to know, please do share with us. Okay. We'll come back. We'll come back to verse 39. Sorry, Gayatri Ma, we are not doing 39 today. We'll come back to the verse next week. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om.